One Word is a production of BFAC On Air.
Welcome back, everyone, to One Word. I am Dominic.
Snap. He just cut me off at the legs. Did you see that?
What?
We were going to sing.
Oh.
Yeah.
Welcome back, everyone, to One Word.
One word.
One word.
That was Harmon that time.
That was
you.
I am Dominic.
That wasn't
I'm
very
Jenna.
harmonious. I am Peter.
I'm Rosie.
I'm Harmon.
And
Harmon, we love you.
Matthew just
I'm
Harmon.
sorry, I didn't mean to call you.
Oh, it's okay. Sorry, guys.
First of all, we have a special guest with us today.
Special
his
guest.
name is
Special
Peter.
guest.
And
Peter.
it was wonderful having all of your contributions in terms of how our word relates to music, and also how I find it interesting how you take a word sometimes and you think about it one way, but then you really start to tear it apart, and it has similar implications in different, really across the globe, like in terms
This
ideas.
is the premise
and-
of our
This is
podcast.
the premise.
This is the premise of One Word. This is what we do.
Yeah, thanks. You got it. But I found it very interesting this time because it is so very stark. Does that make sense? It was very much music and harmony and what people think about that, and then it was very much about our desirings as human beings. So I loved those elements that we talked about.
Glad to be here. Glad to
Yeah,
talk. This is
thank you
interesting
for
stuff.
being here.
I learned things.
You learned things.
I didn't just teach.
That's good. We hope you learned things. Yeah, fascinating fun time.
Yeah, it was good. And I mean, seriously though, the things that we talk about always.
I'm going to be serious now.
Are you? Okay, good.
I'm serious
Not
right
like
now.
before. Not like
Not
before.
like before.
Right now, I'm serious, Dominic. This is serious, Dominic.
Okay.
No laughing.
Oh, sorry.
We are serious now.
We are serious.
Serious now.
But I do feel like we talk about a lot of things where I never really know where we're going, which I kind of love.
Yeah.
Because there's always different things where I'm like, oh, that's interesting, or hearing about different stuff. Obviously, talking about music, I love music. Y'all know I was immersed in the music world for a while, and so talking about music and how that relates, obviously, to harmony, but then also talking about art and how different things coincide too is really fun.
I think this would be a very interesting episode too, to do again and really just focus on some of the visual aesthetics of things a lot more. I think there's a whole nother episode in there
Yeah.
where we can focus on some of those visual aesthetics too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
And I also thought it was interesting, talking about society and how to achieve and maintain harmony, or sometimes, you can't achieve or maintain harmony. And that's also important in the balance of a society.
Yeah. I think it's important in the balance of society because it's this cyclical, it's this hamster wheel of running in my head, because it's when you say that, we can't always be pretty and sound good and everything be like Farquaad's little plastic world, right? Duloc.
The fact that we could have a reference to Shrek made me so happy. What are we if we don't refer to Shrek?
So we can't have that. We've got to have the desire to get to the harmony, to have that movement happen. And sometimes that is with ugliness.
Yeah. And you need the one to get the other.
You need the one
to understand the other.
Yeah, I think, what you just said is perfect, to understand.
Yes.
So we have to come to it with certain qualities as people to want to understand that, to get that progression to harmony.
And then, of course, outside of society and kind of going off that ugly thing, we also talked about harmony and the environment, and how it's not always pretty, but,
Yeah.
we need it.
We've got some disharmony in the environment with our nature there. Yeah. what a great, fun episode. What a great, fun guest you were. We'll have you back sometime.
Thanks.
Sorry.
Can we talk about ponies next time
Say
too?
sorry.
Ponies! Yes, ponies. Yes, ponies. We talked about ponies today.
We did.
Yeah.
Just wait till you see how it was used in the episode. Well, I don't think we should talk on any longer. I am Dominic.
I'm Jenna.
Oh, I'm Rozzy.
I'm Harmon.
And I just have one word for you. Harmony.
Harmony is defined as the quality of forming a pleasing and consistent whole.
Ooh, a pleasing and consistent whole.
Very pleasant.
You know, have I ever told you how pleasant you are, young lad?
Okay.
Young lad. That was nice.
I don't know.
You're not that old. Not quite yet. Give it another like 20 years.
I watch a lot
Thank
of...
you. I'm not old for
In
20
years.
he
20 more
says.
years.
That's nice.
You
I've been
are-
watching a lot of British... Oh, I'm sorry.
No, please.
Yeah. A lot of British television, and they use like the word lads a lot.
Yeah.
And so that just made me happy. That's all. That's all I
That's
had to
great.
say about that.
No, I was appreciating that you are not the oldest one here. You're probably like, what, third or fourth? I don't know. Who's older than you?
I think I'm older than you.
You're older than me by like a year or
So
two.
you're
Yeah.
right in the middle then.
Yeah.
How old are you?
I'm-
Can I ask that?
Yeah, I'm 73 years old.
Oh my gosh, I knew it. You look so great for
I
your
know.
See, I was
age.
gonna say
Yeah.
72.
You're
I have a good.
moisturized.
Well, that's I appreciate that.
You're
No, it's
close.
good. It's a good
Not
skin
a
routine.
day over 72.
It's a good skin. It's good. It's good
Agree
skin
with
routine.
Rozzy there. So Aristotle had a quote. I'm going to read you a quote from Aristotle.
He comes up a lot for us.
He does.
Yeah.
He does a little
She
bit.
needs to simmer down a little
There
bit.
is the instinct for harmony and rhythm. I think a lot of people think about the word harmony a lot of times as a musical thing. Are you raising your hand over there?
I am. I agree with that. I feel like for me, music is very much like, it's like a nice harmony, and that's kind of what the word means to me.
Yeah, a nice harmony
A nice,
is
like-
musically things that fit together.
Like
Yeah.
like two notes.
Like two notes.
Like two notes.
To the sound,
Somebody's
you could say, of two or more notes heard simultaneously.
Yes. Now, harmony. Yes. So notes. Peter, why don't you? Let's just go straight to Peter on this one,
Sure.
shall we?
Sure.
Tell us what harmony is musically speaking.
Okay, so harmony is when two or more sounds happen at the same time.
Yeah.
But one thing I will separate in music is harmony doesn't necessarily mean pleasing in music. With different
I'm so sorry. My watch thinks I'm talking to it right now,
Yeah.
and it's been off on me. Go
Darn
ahead.
it, Siri. No, so in music, harmony is just multiple notes happening at the same time. But one of the things that we think about with all of this music theory is all of the very different amounts of tension
Yes.
that happen in different amounts of harmony. Whereas outside of the musical context, I think harmony is assumed to be pleasing. But in music, there are some very, very pleasing intervals or chords, and then there are some very, very not, but it's still considered harmony. It's this varying amount of pleasingness and tension.
I did in my research, I came across things that said that it had to do with tension, creating tension or anticipation. So you can correct me if I'm wrong too, but in my research,
You're wrong.
I am wrong.
I'm glad somebody said it.
I can be wrong. There are three main elements of music, and they say the three are melody, rhythm, and harmony. However, it's harmony that actually makes music the most interesting because it elevates it from predictable to challenging.
And then like with that, you can have like your tension, and then of course like your release, which helps to like
Like the resolution.
the
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that I agree with what you said.
Yeah, great.
That it's the most. That it's the most. But I'm not taking an opinion on that.
Yes.
I will go back to that idea of that tension and release, because that's what. Excuse me. That's what moves music forward.
Yeah.
That if you only have what we call consonant intervals or consonant chords, only the pretty stuff.
Yeah, go into that. What is consonant?
Consonant is, I can give you the legit like physics of what's happening, but mainly it's when two notes happen together and they're not uncomfortable. They blend into each other.
Okay.
The physics goes way deeper than this, but essentially when any note you hear, there's a fundamental tone, bum, happening up above that is an octave above that, ba, and above that is a fifth, ba, and above that, that was a third, but whatever. Above that, all of those other things are happening, and the relative loudnesses of each of those things affect what makes it sound like an instrument or a different instrument. When two notes happen at the same time, they might have their fundamental a certain distance apart, but all of those overtones are also differences apart.
Yes.
And when those overtones line up and stack on top of each other, it creates what we think of as consonance, or a gentle, pleasant sound. When those overtones
Which is what the majority of society might think of as harmony.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But if you hear a chord where there's a ton of tension in it, very often what's going to happen is those overtones are missing each other. They're not lining up. So those of you who are just listening on audio, I'm sitting here putting my fingers together like I'm trying to touch it. But they're not lining up exactly. And so they're not disappearing into each other. And so we hear all of that tension. And if you have a musical situation where there's no tension, it's like a roller coaster that never goes up or down.
Right. The story's
it's
not
boring.
the journey.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then it's, so when to give it somewhere to go, to give it some drama, you've got to go up the hill on that roller coaster, and you've got to have this oh crap moment, and then, oh, there it goes. And so that tension, building. And then the release of that tension, or makes it even cooler, is that trick of we thought you were going to release the tension, but it went in a new
go somewhere
place.
else.
Yes.
Sure.
Just
You know,
like in comedy sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, if you think, oh, it's going to go in this direction, and then a lot of times it's a lot more awe-inspiring or funnier when they take a right turn on
Yeah,
you.
where it does not go where you expect it to, and that makes it interesting. And the roller coaster analogy, you're
Well,
going
see,
up.
it does make it interesting there.
Well, you said the most,
okay,
and so like that. When you're talking, all right, whatever. But with the roller coaster analogy, you can go up the hill and then go down the hill, and everybody can get a sense of what that's like. But imagine you're going down the hill and you go into a tunnel, and while you're in that tunnel, it flips upside down and turns left.
Yeah.
That deception, that tricked you moment is also interesting / terrifying / and then only at the end you get the resolution. Wagner has an opera, which I'm not a big Wagner fan, but there's a Tristan and Isolde that's essentially the Romeo and Juliet for the Germans, and it never resolves for 5 hours.
Wow.
It's only tense, and just when you think it's going to resolve, something else hits, and something else is a little uncomfortable moment. It sort of lines with he had this like philosophical, I don't remember which philosopher it was, but it was like that nothing in life is ever happy, and only after you die that's quite
the statement.
Is it worth
Yeah.
it, right? And so
Yeah.
that tracks with that Romeo and Juliet, Tristan and Isolde idea that only after they die, then all of a sudden now it's like, okay, it's great, happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that's that idea of harmony is that tension, and the release of that is what moves it forward.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I also, in researching harmony, I researched also kind of the opposite of that as well. Disharmony is a word as well. Have you heard of that word, Jenna?
Well, I wasn't sure if you were going to disharmony or dissonance.
Yeah, they were going to say
Dissonance.
dissonance.
Yeah.
Well, I bet they might be quite, maybe there's some crossover to it, but disharmony is discord or the want of harmony. Want of harmony. That comes from 1600.
I don't know how I feel about the word disharmony. Because I feel like, I don't know, I guess want of harmony kind of, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but like harmonies can be different and they don't necessarily have pleasing. So if there is a want of harmony, wouldn't that just be melody?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the musical situation, yeah.
Yeah.
There's no harmony can be pleasant or unpleasant, but if there's no harmony, it's because there's only one thing. Right. But
So
yeah,
is
which is
that-
why disharmony is not a term that comes up in music. That we
Yeah.
use that
Yeah.
consonant and dissonant.
Yeah.
But the disharmony had that idea, outside of musical context.
I think, that would be the melody. Yeah, because you're wanting something perhaps more, perhaps something a little more interesting with a little bit more drama. You're wanting something that tells more of a story. You're wanting more of an impact because that harmony is elevating to another level. Could that be accurate there? So I also found harmony in other art aspects as well. I'm going to read you a quote. Art serves as a non-motivated and abstract purpose. People don't produce art for a specific function. It is simply a reflection of how humans experience, classify, and organize the information surrounding them and their connection to this information. People usually try to look for order and trends to make sense of the universe. Art provides an opportunity to express these trends.
I was thinking kind of like off of what you said, like maybe like kind of abstract art, like you said, like how the human eye like looks for things in like other places. So maybe like abstract art, because everybody sees abstract art as like a different thing. Like where I might see a couple of like triangles and squares, you might see like, oh, that's a person.
Yeah.
But like I think humans probably like kind of look for that kind of harmony in the.
And I think just as in music, for example, if we're looking at an abstract piece of art, perhaps there's colors or angles that create a similar type of tension that the harmony within music can create for us. And I feel like if we place ourselves inside the artistry of a musician or a visual artist or a comedian, any of those types of people, and they are making a statement about the world that they're living in, or the tension that exists, or the resolution that needs to happen, or the journey that people need to take on, those things, they're creating an order in that piece. They are telling a story through, whether it's music, whether it's a painting, or whether it's a piece of theater or anything like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like I feel like it's interesting because it talked about how like people are always looking for like order in art, and it's like because the world is made up of many things working together, and
Yes.
it's all art is based somewhat off of someone's life. Even it's like life experiences form art.
Yeah.
It's like harmony is going to be present in like almost every single art form in some way, I feel like.
Okay.
Because it's kind of based off of life, and there's harmony in life too.
There's harmony in life too.
Two things.
Say both of them.
Okay, at the same time.
No.
So when I was trying to remember the name of the class that I took when I went to school for music before,
Yeah,
before I
you did
chickened
that.
out. And we had to
you
create.
chickened out?
I definitely chickened out right at the end. But we had to create our own variations on songs. And
Okay.
so I actually just found my composition the other day, and I was like, Carpenter. But mine was like a variation on, what was it? When Irish Eyes Are Smiling. And you had to do 4 different variations. So you had to take the original, and then you had to change it for like these 4 different styles, but using that same, like kind of bass. And it was such like going back and looking at the composition, it's so interesting because you really do, kind of like we were just saying, you really do have like, there's different feels to it, even though it's like that same kind of bass song. You've got this different feel. You've got a different meter. You've got like some of it was a little bit more sad, some of it was, a little happier. And so it's really it really is like fascinating looking at just how that relates to different arts. So the second thing I was going to say was I was looking at harmony in art itself and colors, and how when artists are creating things, they don't just, unless you're a kid who's not really like looking and thinking about art theory.
They're
you don't
just feeling and expressing.
Right, and grabbing color. Yeah. But artists will often think about like what type of tone they want for their piece. And so there's different colors that work for that on the color wheel, whether it's achromatic or monochromatic.
You go straight across, or you go a quarter.
Yeah, or triads and things. And so it's just fascinating how like all those worlds of art, how harmony really does. Like if you take that and you're looking at it in art and painting, and you take that and you think about it in music, it's like all similar things.
Yeah, it
and how
really
you're
is.
feeling.
So whether or not it's pleasing or not, I feel like it's organizing all of these different, perhaps sounds, looks, etc., organizing them into an order in which to make the statement we're needing to make, to take a group of people on a journey that we want to take them on, and we're bringing all these things from our world together, and we're creating and we're fitting them together in order to express what we need to express. And sometimes we need to express something that's almost ugly in sound, almost, even like
Sure.
that. Yeah.
Well, and there are musicians who would really disagree with that too.
Yeah.
John Cage, for example, famously the song composition 4 minutes and 33 seconds. He walks up to the piano. Audience is sitting there looking at him, reading the program, sits down, has his hands over the keyboard for 2 minutes, and doesn't play anything, and then he puts it in his lap. That's the first movement. Then he comes back up, puts his hands back up over the thing, again, does not play a single note. That's the second movement. When the whole thing's 4 minutes, 33 seconds, puts it down. That's it. That's the end of the piece. And
John Cage was metal.
well, it's so metal. It's getting better because many people misunderstand the piece. And that's the equivalent of like when I would go to a museum of modern art with my dad, and he'd be like, I could make this painting is just a frame with a white nothing. I could do that. Yeah,
I directed a show called Art, and it was by Yasmina Reza, and it's these three friends who get into an argument about this. He spent all this money on this white piece of canvas. That was it. Yeah.
Well, and the thing is, and he'd say, I could do that, and I'd say, yeah, but you didn't. And with Cage, his thing was he loved the randomness of it because every time that piece is performed, it's different because maybe a bus went by and maybe somebody coughed at 30 seconds in.
So correct me if I'm wrong. Is it about also part of the order and fitting things together about the moment you're in with that piece and who you're sharing it with at that exact time? That's never going to be the same 3 months later when the same thing is.
That's very well said. And that I think is there's connections to live theater as well, where you can do the same play twice and it's a very different play. You know what I mean? Because of the difference of the audience that's there.
One of my favorite stories in terms of that is Allison Janney. Do we know who she is from West Wing? Yeah. And she was in Mom.
She's an NIU person, isn't she?
She was in Finding Nemo.
Okay, that too.
I'll tell you which role she was in.
But she was doing a play, and it was, I won't say which one, but it was at the time of an election in the United States of America, and she did the play one day, and everything meant one thing to her. And the next day she came in, it was after an election, and everything about that play meant something different to her as an artist. And it was such a different piece when she performed it because the world had changed. The world was slightly different. And so the meanings all meant something different. So for her to make order, for her to put the pieces together for that audience that night, it wasn't the same as the previous night.
And good and bad, but it was different.
It was different is the main point.
And that same idea with Cage, he was just like it's the instrument. His favorite instrument, he said, in another situation was a busy city street, because of the randomness that's there. He has another piece for 12 radios, where if you can imagine a car radio that has a volume dial and a tuner, And he has very specific instructions for 12 people to play these 12 radios. Like person number 3, turn it, 30 degrees to the left. Take your right one, turn it, 5 times to the right. Very specific instructions. But obviously it's never going to be the same because there's different stuff on the radio.
Yes.
And so his point was, you can control what you can control very specifically, meticulously, as best as you want, but the context, like you're saying, the context is going to change everything so much. And with compositions he was making, he wasn't pretending that it was the same because it's going to sound different every time. And it was just fascinating to me. I don't necessarily want to go to that concert, but in terms of understanding harmony, yeah, he wasn't fooling himself into thinking that all of the sounds that he makes on the instrument is all of the sounds that are happening.
Yes. So let's talk about that a little bit. So harmony, it comes from the Greek word harmonia, is where it originally comes from, which then meant to fit together, okay? Its Indo-European root word, A-R, means the same thing, along with a bunch of other things, like fitting,
Why did you say
order.
plethora? That's such a good word.
That is a good word. We should add that to our list.
We should.
Oh,
We should add that to
yeah.
our list. Right, so it's this whole concept of order and fitting things together, and how we are a joint is another word. This jointness of things. So let's kind of segue now into a little bit, because we've talked about humanity.
I didn't bring my segue with me.
Well, if we could, we'd get on that thing, and we got microphone stands, and they just hook to the edge of the Segway. We should do a live tour, just us on Segways doing a podcast.
Yeah, let's go to Chicago. We'll do
Yes.
it.
The background noise could be the.
It hasn't been tried. You want to do something new? There it is.
True.
But so how do these things live together in one place? How do those sounds live together? How do those colors live together? How do they fit together in one place? And as I was researching harmony, I found a very interesting concept, that there are essentially 4 types of harmony in our worlds, right? We've got the harmony of the individual. So how do we live in harmony as a human being? How do the parts of ourself fit together? Then there's family. So how in the family, the society, how do we have harmony within our societies? And the harmony of nature. How do we have harmony in nature? And all of those things kind of interrelate. But as I was researching it, they kind of start at a root. And that is with the individual, within the person. You said yes. What do you
Well, yeah, I mean, like, your life is based around you, and I know that sounds kind of like selfish or like narcissistic,
No,
but it's
life is based around me. You're right.
Yeah.
You're all just characters in my movie.
exactly. I'm the main character. But like, in order to have a harmonious life, I was like doing some research,
Yeah.
like mindfulness and wellness. But like one that I thought was really interesting was like detachment.
Okay.
So sometimes it's like you need to know when to separate yourself from a scenario or a person in order to be in harmony with yourself and
Yeah.
like realign your like well-being.
Yeah. Oh, very interesting.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to take it one step farther. Plato had an idea about the interdependent relationship and that true harmony within our world. It was understanding the part of yourself that is a part of the whole. So you've got these individual qualities within yourself that make up your whole part, but then you yourself make up part of your family situation, but then your family also makes up part of a society. You know all these, how the part interrelates with everything, and the balance and how these things fit together. How does your humor, how is having a good balance and humor also important, but while you have a hardworking attitude? Am I going ahead too much?
Oh no,
okay.
I just like humor.
You like humor?
Well, I think it was so fascinating when you talked about how removing yourself from a situation. What was that idea again?
Detachment.
Yeah, that in a musical harmony situation, if there's two notes happening and a third one can really change the context of what those two sound like. If that third one goes away, then all of a sudden they function very, very differently. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that happens, I think, in human dynamics and interactions with each other, that, you know, sometimes people get along really, really well, and then there's one person that is changing the dynamic when everybody else is around, for better or for worse. That harmony, the relationship, all these things can drastically change with little adjustments.
So yes, so you're just taking it onto a little bit of society and the harmony within society. So there is social harmony, and it's the concept. So our social networks are extremely important to us as human beings and who we are. And contention can arise from these relationships. But there's this guy, his name is Simmel, and he suggested that among three people, so imagine an A, a B, and a C, that if A and B and A and C have strong ties, that B and C would eventually have strong ties as well. That's called a triadic closure, okay? Now, there is basically a formula that he goes by to say how our relationships can exist or fit together, right? And so I'm going to bear with me just a little bit, okay? We have the three people, A, B, and C, okay? Let's imagine a world where A and B have a strong bond together and they fit together really well. But A and C do not. That would insinuate that person B and C are not going to have a bond together. Okay? Let's imagine A and B do not have a good relationship. Well,
they know each other, but they just don't have a good relationship.
Yes.
Okay. I was like, this other random dude, they just don't know. Okay, no. They when you say they don't have a relationship, you mean they're not getting along.
Nope.
Okay,
How's it going? Just hang out today.
But let's also say that A and C do not have a strong bond and fit together. That means that B and C will have a strong relationship and fit together.
Because they have a common enemy.
Yes.
Common enemy.
Bonding over
Enemy
hatred.
of my enemy
Right?
is my friend.
Is that how you feel, Harmon?
All the time. So sad.
All the time.
But let's jump ahead together, right? A and B, let's say they have a positive, they fit together, a strong bond. And A and C also have a strong relationship and fit together. That would insinuate that B and C will also fit together and become a strong bond of each other.
What if none of them have a strong bond with each other?
So then I don't think that they fit together at all, and they're not in this
This is
chart
R,
of
Q,
any
and 13.
kind.
Well, it's interesting though, because I kept waiting for the one where, like, what is it where, like, the one person gets jealous of somebody else's friendship with somebody
That's
else?
what I was
Yeah.
thinking. Because I
Like,
thought you were going to say, like,
I'm like, because I see you made that point twice. Like A and B are good buddies, and A and C are buddies, and B and C were like, yeah, we're not going to be buddies. Like,
Yeah,
this is my girl over here. You can't hang out with her. You know,
Yeah.
whatever.
yeah.
I don't know.
So let's talk about society. Is there how do we find harmony in societies then?
There's sort of like a balance between like cooperation and competition. Whether
Yes, I read that too.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Also like conformity and individuality. Because if there's like too much conformity, then no one's unique. But if everybody's like individualistic, then what's the common goal?
Yeah,
you know?
It's almost like if everybody's the same note, there's only
Exactly.
one note, and
Then
there's
it's
no harmony.
melody, like
Then
we
there's
were talking about
There's no
earlier.
harmony. That
Yeah.
you need a little bit of difference and a little bit of overlap.
Yeah. Did
Yeah.
you say diversity
if
at all?
everybody's
I did
super
not, but I was about to.
Oh, great. Go.
Yes.
Go.
Diversity.
Sorry, I took it a little bit from you.
And yeah.
Yeah. So,
You weren't going to say anything about it. You're just going to say the word.
but what's the opposite of diversity? It's that just like
Diversity.
Like uniform.
University, only one as opposed to.
Yeah. So it's like important to have all those aspects to, even though they sort of juxtapose each other and are like have different definitions or opposite definitions, you need some aspects of all those to have like a balanced and harmonious society.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It makes it interesting. It makes us see other people's perspectives. It helps us coexist. It helps us problem solve with things. Whereas, like, if you have too much I think what they're saying in that, if you have too much just cooperation, then there's no advancement to it. Perhaps.
And if you have too much separation, then it's a hard time to be sympathetic or empathetic or whatever.
Exactly correct.
Harder to see yourself in that person or learn from each other because you don't have a common language or a common value system.
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
This is going to be a weird question.
No weird question.
I accept this. Okay. How are you in threes?
You mean like people with three friends or something like
In
that?
groups of three. So like
My wife says that we have 3 daughters, but this isn't why she says it, but she says that girls can't be friends in threes. That threes are difficult to be friends in. I think part of the reason that this whole chart was just saying.
Oh yeah, random jealousies. Or
A
whatever
and B,
else.
B and C, but then A and C are really the tight ones, and they just don't fit. How are you?
So I tend to, I've realized this about myself. I tend to, if there are 3 of us hanging out, I will purposely kind of like back out. Not back out, but like if we're in such a specific situation, but if we're driving in a car, I will sit in the back.
I'm in
Okay, right? Like let's say you and Harmon are like, we're going somewhere.
Yeah.
I'll be like, I'll sit in the back, and then I'll sit in the back and I'll just chill.
Yeah.
Like I won't even necessarily listen to that conversation. Like I'm gonna let them like have their time, and I'll just kind of like back out to kind of give them like.
So you're saying in that relationship setting, that's how you fit into it.
It's
That's
almost like too much pressure to like perform.
Yeah, because like I feel like when it's like a one-on-one like conversation, you have to sometimes you need so much energy just to come up with something to say.
Yes.
But it's like when there's 3 people, there's sort of a balance where I could be like, I don't have to carry the conversation. I can join in when I feel like the need to talk.
That is
So
it
just sounds
exactly.
like you're comfortable in a setting of 3, whereas yours sounds like you're like not.
Well,
so
no.
much.
I probably didn't say it very I don't say anything where it seems like I'm comfortable. But no, it is. I'm very comfortable. Like I will gladly sit back there and not say anything. Or like if somebody says something where it's like, oh, I've got something to say, I'll throw it in there. But then I feel like now I can just sit back again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
you're
know,
watching the show.
Yeah.
It's slightly more.
Yeah.
Is it more comfortable for you than just 2?
Yeah. Well, is it? I don't know.
It depends on the person, I feel like.
Yeah. I think it depends on like the group. Like me personally, I'm a group of 5 kind of guy.
Yeah.
That's what we are right
That's why it's so great.
Okay, so how are you? Who are you in the group of 5? How does it work?
I think like a group of 5 works like kind of well, just because like it's not like in a group of 3, like you can have like an A-B conversation, and if they're talking about something that like you don't really know or like you don't really want to talk about, then like you're just kind of out there. But if like you're in a group of 5, like 2 of your friends could be having like a conversation while like you and one of your other buddies and like someone else, like there's a little bit more like flexibility, I feel, for like kind of harmony in the group.
So that's like a chord of 3 notes versus a chord of.
Oh, I'm all over this. I was like, do I go back to music again or not?
Yeah.
So any note.
I almost asked, like, are you the 5th? Are you?
Are you the flat 7? Any note can be any function. You know what I mean? Like I can sing a certain pitch, which is bum 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 bum. That bottom note right now, it's the root. It's in charge. It's sort of holding the space. You know what I mean? And now maybe Tiffany over here is bum 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 bum.
Gosh, Tiffany.
She's that 7 on there, right? And that's the one that's pushing you. Somebody the 7 of your chord, the root, 3rd, 5th, 7th,
Always Tiffany.
is the one that's
Always.
pushing you on to something else. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's taking
Whereas
you
if
forward.
it's just roots and fifths, we can hang out all day. We're good. It doesn't really need to go anywhere. It's very stable, but it's also kind of boring.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It doesn't take us to that place that it's like if we always lived in that collaboration space, or if we always lived in that individual space instead of the diversity space. Yeah. We need that balance to help us get where we want to get to.
Right. Well, and you can, if you can imagine, people are just, like old married couples sitting around looking at each other, and
yes,
they're not.
Well, you are 72.
I know. Jeez, let me say.
So I thought he was 73.
I know. I keep forgetting. No, I'm like Benjamin Button. I keep getting younger as it goes on. But like, imagine this old married couple sitting around looking at each other. They've told each other all the same stories. Mm-hmm. They are so consonant. They are root and fifth. They know exactly where they're at. There's nothing interesting anymore. They gotta get a cool neighbor or something like that, or they gotta have their kid call
bring one of their grandkids.
Right,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Grandkid come in and give them a little dissonance, give them a little tension, give them a little emotion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I was gonna say,
relationships lose their. It can be harmonious, but dull.
Yes, I was going to say it's also that moment in life they occupy that could add that extra thing, like you were speaking about, in terms of how that music piece exists the way it is because of the moment you're sitting it in with. Does that make sense?
Or also like any particular note, for example, let's C and G, for example, like those two notes, they get along really well and they don't really do anything interesting. But if they're not the root anymore, if it's not a C chord, maybe it's an A chord, which has a C and a G in it.
Yeah.
But they're not the function anymore. So like this old married couple, they're not sitting around in the living room anymore. Now they're in a different context. They're in a different setting, and they're telling their stories to somebody else. And now that relationship or that interaction feels different because they're in this new and fresh harmonious environment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
They're finding where they fit in that new environment too.
Yeah, and it gives
making
that,
order. They're making order out of it.
And it gives it motion.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of the town of Harmony or New Harmony, Indiana?
Oh, no.
Okay,
No.
so
Please
there's
share.
this town back in like early 1800s, and they were called.
I founded the town in 1800. That's right, I did.
She was telling something really important here. Let's stay focused.
I was waiting for him to say that he was Jerome. And then I was about to panic because I don't know my voice. So it started actually in Pennsylvania, and they kind of, with westward expansion, came to Indiana, created this town named Harmony. And it was, I'm of course going to forget some of it, but they were they weren't Lutheran. They were something, Germanic something.
Sure.
Okay.
And so their whole thing was they wanted to be a self-sufficient town. They wanted to kind of provide this enlightenment for the people within their town. And they kind of got upset at the people who would come from Germany. They're they're disrupting what we have here. Yeah. They're so entitled. They want this. Anyway, they sold the town. They called it New Harmony. And they kind of almost became this... Not a cult.
I was gonna ask, if that's right,
but
are we making a cult? Yeah.
They were we want this equality where everybody works together. The 2 to 5 year olds have this that they do. The 6 to 8 year olds have this that they do. The 10 to 12, and they kind of broke it off into sections. Because they're if we do all these things, if we work together in this way, we're going to have a better life. That failed after 2 years.
Yeah.
I was going to say, was that the start of public schooling?
Right? Yeah. So that failed after 2 years. But a lot of the things that they actually started within that town are things that continued on just in a way where it was almost everybody is the same, and we're kind of almost making them do some of these same things. But they did start and again, I'll have to go back and research this, but I thought I read something about one of the first libraries in that town was there. One of the first whatevers was there. So a lot of things continued, but that experiment of having this harmonious town didn't necessarily work. But they're still called New Harmony, and they still do some of the things. They just didn't harmonize in the way that worked for more than 2 years.
Well, it's almost like we want harmony to be peaceful, but it has to go somewhere.
It
Yeah.
does. Yeah.
It has to change. It has to be dynamic, and we have to have that rising tension and releasing tension.
We are human beings
Yeah.
after all.
Yeah.
And
Or-
we...
Or as a parent, it's I want to my kid to have a good life. I don't want them to have to make the same dumb mistakes I made. I want to like protect them, all that kind of stuff. However, you know what I mean? They're going to have to go through these tensions and release. They're going to have to go through these ups and downs. They're going to have harmony and disharmony or dissonance or whatever.
Which is the desire for harmony.
Right. And it sounds like they were trying to avoid that. They're trying to avoid tension. They're trying to avoid that. And
I think that in and of itself goes against it.
Right.
Like you can't avoid the tension. You can't avoid it because there's that balance. You have to have the tension in order to have the release. You have to have the struggle in order to get the growth. Like you have to, they kind of go hand in hand almost.
Yeah, because there's no good times if there are no bad times. Because if it's just everything's good, then that's not a good time. That's just a time, you know?
It's like the
How are you? I'm having a time.
It's a time.
It's like the yin and the yang. Like there's always the bad and the good and the good and the bad. Like it's
Yeah.
And sometimes the ugly.
and sometimes the ugly.
Good, the bad, and the ugly.
But yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, since we talked about ugly, let's talk about some ugly things real quick because I think that last element.
You so ugly.
No, I'm not. I think the last element of harmony can be detrimental to us, and that's that harmony with nature. I
Like tornadoes.
Yes,
Like tornadoes.
Yes, like tornadoes. But the reason there are more tornadoes
It's because of climate change.
could be because of climate change. Depends
I did not have climate change on my harmony word bingo card coming in here today. I'm like, I've got to research climate change when you're talking about harmony later.
So what is harmony of nature? What is that about?
That's when the birds are singing and when like Cinderella comes and she has them make her clothes and stuff for her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and she gets the carriage made out of the pumpkin.
Yeah.
Well, but it's what's so funny because, like, you know, nature is like watching a lion take down a gazelle too.
Yeah.
It
And
totally
It's
is
ugly.
that harmonious
Yeah.
with nature? I mean,
But it's harmonious.
Reality.
That's
you know.
maybe those notes that we don't like to hear, and they're doing this with
Right.
your hands thing.
Yeah, it doesn't. But it doesn't ever sit still. No.
But it still has to happen in order for that piece to move forward, right? That lion has to take the gazelle down because that's part of
Yeah.
Because it's
So-
a keystone species.
the.
It is.
look at you.
Hey.
Go ahead, Harm.
So I looked up some stuff, and the UN actually did a little bit about harmony with nature,
Yes.
and kind of with the creation of Earth Day, and just saying how humans don't really have a harmony with the Earth as of right now, and so we have all kinds of problems like finite resources here, and then of course,
And we're using them up.
we're using them
You
up.
know, when
Yeah.
I was reading some of that nature stuff, there was a word we did, by the way, if you want more information, consumerism in season 1. It really
That was
ties
a long time ago.
It was a long time ago. It ties a lot to this kind of thing. Here,
Yeah.
keep going, Harmon.
And then, of course, climate change, as we all,
Mm-hmm.
have heard of and
Yeah.
and don't love so much. But just kind of like how we're kind of disrupting the harmony of the earth.
Yeah, and the harmony with nature, as I was reading it, was kind of about, how do humans fit in with nature? How do we not just use nature up and consume it all, but how do we enhance nature to allow nature to provide us with life? There's this whole fitting in thing, and how do we fit with our nature?
There's that give and take for sure.
Yeah.
If you could live off the grid, would you?
Boy, I'd like, and here's how I'm going to answer. I'd like to say yes. I would like to say yes. But I feel as though the things I do and the amount I consume, there's no way I could live off the grid. But I'd like to say yes. I feel like that's the appropriate thing to say.
Right. Is it air conditioned off the grid? That's what I want
I was going to ask how far off the grid
to yeah. I know. Like, how many blocks do I have to go to get some sushi? No, I mean, This is so fascinating to me that as in all of these contexts, we're talking about harmony. It's not static. Mm-hmm. It's never just about the particular chord or the particular relationship. It's always about, or the particular interaction with human and nature, or lion and gazelle. It's like, where is it going?
Yeah.
And there is a built-in part of time into harmony. Mm-hmm. Now, music has other names for that, but like implied in that is the things that are changing.
Yeah. One of the interesting points with nature that I think also they also have to do with what we were talking about here, and understanding individuals and how different groups fit into societies, and how that we make and we learn from one another. Things I was reading about is how indigenous cultures are extremely crucial to us having harmonious relationships with nature, because the indigenous people around the world, they have a much more interconnected view of themselves with the world, and the interdependent realization in nature of what is required to have that be a harmonious relationship. And I think having that empathy and that wanting to learn from other people as an individual is something that's important to obtaining some harmony in that sense, and that future growth there. I think it's important to do that from a young age. From the age of the 2-year-old. And so I'm going down this road. There is something...
Okay.
I'm going here.
Drum roll, please.
There is something called the elements of harmony.
I thought you were going to say surprise, and I thought you were going to shout.
Have you heard of the elements of harmony?
Maybe.
All right. I'm just going to tell you what the elements of harmony are,
okay.
and then we'll say what they're actually from.
Is this like a quiz?
No, it's not a quiz, but I want you to kind of think what is your biggest one that you attach to the most? Okay?
Okay.
The first one, element of honesty.
Okay.
Element of kindness.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm being too vocal.
Element of laughter. Element of generosity. The element of loyalty. And the element of magic.
I'm sorry. I definitely made a face at magic.
Magic is
like close-up
is
Magic.
in what I kind of dug into with that one. Magic is about friendship, because friendship is
magic.
Friendship is magic.
Is this like love was the answer all along?
So of those, which one do you attach to?
Definitely not magic.
Definitely magic.
Who thinks they attach to one?
What were they again?
Yes, honesty, kindness, laughter, generosity, loyalty, and magic.
I think I attach to kindness.
Kindness. Yeah, I would see that with you.
Yeah.
I can see that with you.
I think laughter. I mean, not like mean funny, but like if you're just like if you're just like a genuinely funny person, I'm like,
there's so much laughter in our world that does not have to be mean in nature.
Exactly.
I think. Right? I think it's also about finding the joyousness sometimes too, right? I attach to laughter as well. I'm right there with Razi on laughter.
That was my second.
You can make fun of me. I think I
Oh, no, is it magic?
It's magic.
Oh,
no, we need that.
For real, because
we need that in there.
I hear that in the way of like I spend my life trying to chase this moment and get all of the pieces together and getting all the chords in tune and getting all the vowels right and everything, because when we do it just right, I'm a choir director, in just the right way and just the right speed and everything's shaped, then something happens that's not just the physics of it.
Yeah.
I accept magic in that way.
I like that.
You know what I mean?
Nice.
And but outside of that too, I mean, there's something about like, if you're holding hands with somebody, or you holding hands with somebody, you know what I mean? and it's the magic. You know what I mean? That's the magic that's there, and like So I don't know. That's why I connect that one. I feel like I want to chase that. Like whatever the situation is, I want to like, where does it become sparkling? You know?
Yeah.
I just
love
read
it.
this book and there's like this romance in it, and now I'm like in a mushy place. So even just the thought of like holding hands, I'm like holding hands.
Great.
Magic.
What about you, Harmon? You didn't say one.
I think I'd probably go loyalty.
Loyalty. Great. I can see that in you too. So, okay. These are the 6
Wait, what? Oh, you already said yours. I'm sorry.
I said mine. Yeah.
Yeah.
These are the 6 supernatural artifacts representing subjective aspects of harmony. As I said, they're honesty, kindness, laughter, generosity, loyalty, and magic. They have been wielded on rare occasions, particularly during events marked by danger and anarchy, as a last resort to restore and enforce the balance of peace and order. However, the effects of their use are generally temporary and non-lethal, usually a form of banishment or imprisonment. They are the order counterpart of the elements of chaos, and were made to replace the elements of virtue after they disappeared after the battle against the Pony of Shadows. This is from
I was in a
My
band.
Little Pony.
I was in a band one day called the Pony of Shadows. But, for My Little Pony, from My Little Pony.
This is from My Little Pony.
I thought you were going to say it was from Disney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I
That's
was
a
like,
heck of a build-up right
Yeah, I
there.
know.
you know those like those Star Wars like title cards. It's just like coming
Yeah.
down.
It's all like sailing off in the distance.
So,
Good.
But those elements
Did he mention he has 3 daughters?
those elements of harmony and instilling them into these young people and understanding that my element of laughter is crucial to your element of kindness and loyalty and magic. And together, all of those things, when put into one place, if we're learning from one another, if we're understanding where you're coming from with that kindness, I think that's the important part.
And laughing at each other.
And always
And laughing at each other.
And not assuming that everything's always going to be harmonious. Allowing for the fact that dissonance is going to happen, and it has to.
That's the hardest part for me.
Yeah.
That is the hardest part for me. I
you
really
want everything to
struggle
be
with-
like easy. Like,
Yeah.
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 Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Who doesn't? Yeah. I mean,
No.
like we want it to be easy and comfortable.
But I think we
and-
have to have that patience and grace. And that's where other people come into that, right? We can help give you that patience. Like when you're feeling, this is dissonant. That's where your tribe, that's where your group of people, that's where your society, that's where your family, having that harmony and family, that's where that helps bring you together. Does that make sense to you?
Sure.
Yeah. So, we have delved into the depths,
Alliteration. That was
the-
nice.
That was good. That was good.
Delved into that.
into the resonant depths of one concept, harmony. From the intricate symphony of musical notes to the profound need for harmony within the realms of the individual, family, society, and nature. Our exploration was hopefully inspiring. In the world of music, harmony is the sublime fusion of different notes, creating a melody that transcends individual sounds. Much like a well-played symphony, our lives seek harmonious balance across those 4 levels: individual, family, society, and nature. And they interconnect with one another. As we unravel the threads of harmony, we couldn't help but reflect on Plato's timeless idea of harmonious societies. The Greek philosopher envisioned a balance where each individual plays a unique role, contributing to the greater good, a vision that remains relevant today. Let's not forget the unexpected lessons we find in the most unique and quirky places,
Quirky.
such as the colorful world of My Little Pony. The elements of harmony in Ponyville emphasize the importance of virtues like honesty, loyalty, kindness, and laughter, reminding us that true harmony is a blend of positive qualities that foster unity and understanding, and the importance of putting those virtues in our young people. Harmony at its core is about things fitting into an order. A symphony of elements working together seamlessly. Just as musical notes find their place in a chord, so do individual families and societies thrive when they find their rightful place in the grand composition of life. In our exploration, we uncovered some keys to social harmony: empathy, open communication, and an appreciation for diversity. It's a celebration of differences that creates a rich tapestry, much like a festive gathering where varied voices come together in a collective song of understanding and acceptance. We reflect on the human instinct for order and harmony. We discovered that this inclination is deeply rooted in our nature. Whether it's our instinct to seek balance in our personal lives, or the way we yearn for harmony in our relationships, the pursuit of order is a fundamental aspect of being human. Nostalgia, with its warm embrace, often leads us back to moments of harmony. In our past, moments when we were harmoniously existing. It serves as a reminder of balance and connection. As we conclude this episode, let us carry that resonance of harmony into our lives. May we strive for balance, appreciate the unique and quirky notes of our individual melodies, and embrace the collective song of humanity. Remember, in the grand symphony of life, each one of us has a vital role to play. Let's stay harmonious together.
Together. Knowing you well.
I am Dominic.
I'm Jenna.
I'm Peter.
I'm Rosie.
I'm Harmon.
And you've been listening to One Word.
One word.
One Word.
One word. Because I'm not a strong fifth.
Join us next month when our word is
Trivial.
see you next time.
One Word is a production of BFAC On Air.